Welcome to the Digital Dialogues podcast by Virtual Vision, hosted by Amanda Stichter. In each episode, we talk to real people with real insights as they share their real experiences. Our guests are some of the service industry's top experts. Covering a wide range of topics, you are sure to hear truth bombs and industry wisdom that you won't want to miss. The Digital Dialogues podcast. Tune in on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Digital Dialogues podcast, where we have real conversations with real people in the restoration industry in ways that can just benefit you in this industry. Special episode because we are actually in person today. Whoop, whoop. As you can see, we are currently at an event. We're hanging out at the Experience in beautiful Chattanooga, Tennessee. And today I thought what would be more fitting than to have a conversation with our very own senior marketing account manager here at Virtual Vision, just to talk a little bit through the questions that we hear the most often about new marketing trends, how it benefits the restoration industry, even challenges that we're seeing, and just really being able to have that conversation so that it benefits the businesses that we actually serve. So I'm super excited to introduce you. She's so thrilled to be on camera too. Super excited to introduce you to well, I guess I can like actually call you like former working together. This is my bestie. But when I moved to Virtual Vision, I just like drug her with me and she got thrown into it. Correct. So this is Kim. Kim, why don't you just tell our listeners a little about yourself?
Oh, hey. So, long time coming, but
you do have to look at the camera.
Well, I mean, sorry, there's a lot going on. But been in the industry for 3 years now. As Amanda said, the marketing team lead over here at Virtual Vision. So essentially help run the marketing aspects, not the internal marketing. Amanda handles that for Virtual Vision, but the external, working with our clients on their marketing needs, and then also account manage as well. So I am in it every day, all day, seeing the challenges, the pros, the cons, everything of marketing. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
So, and that's the conversation I want to have today as we talk a little bit about marketing. So being at the show, like, you know, we are hearing a lot of questions from people. Yeah. And I think maybe it surprises people when we express our own frustration about the world of marketing because we work in it. Like this is our day in and day out, but it is not an easy thing to manage and to like come up against the things that are happening in our industry. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. And I want to get your perspective and preface like, yes, we both work for Virtual Vision and we're having this conversation here, but we want to talk to just like broad spectrum, what we're seeing on the market, what are some of the trends that are happening. So I know one of the things that we talk about and that I get to share with people often is just like digital marketing is always a moving target, right? So, and it should be that way because our world is so digitally focused. Like we obviously have to shift with the times and continue to move forward, which, you know, we all like, we have to work with Google, even though it makes us want to pull our hair out.
Absolutely.
Can you share with us, like, what are some of the recent like trends or updates that we've seen in digital marketing? Maybe a Google update. And then I do want to talk about like the shift in the trends of like where money is being spent on Google for marketing. But we'll get there in a minute. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about like what's happening as you work with clients. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So across the board in Google land, we're seeing a lot more transparency, wanted, needed.
And what do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll dive into that. So when looking at websites alone in Google land, they want content to be real. They want the client to be the one that you're making that content for, not ranking, not anything like that. They want to make it a client experience, the best experience it can be.
Yeah.
And that leads to more transparency about who your company is, what they represent, what their goals in life are, what their values are, because people don't want to work with strangers anymore. And so, and they want to support local more often than not. And they don't want to necessarily go with corporate entities all the time.
Right.
And so it's just they really want to dive in and have that personal touch seen, and know who they're working with. So in Google land, that has really led to a change of more thorough about us pages of let's really talk about who these owners are and what they represent. And
on their website,
on their website, but also across the board. You can do it on your social medias and things like that, of just being more personable, and really talking about who your company is and the crew that you use within the companies. Those are the aspects on Google land that we are seeing more and more needing improvement, and that they're more and more ranking and looking at accordingly. So that has led obviously to changes in websites, but also changes in how you go about posting on social media, and also how you just verbalize your company, even in the ads world. So,
I think you mentioned like the whole user experience piece, right, of the search engine. And I think often that's kind of one of the first things that can tend to be missed, because we think like, if I'm going to do a search on Google, well, there's no person behind that necessarily, but there's a person that's using that. And so the experience of like, they are still having some sort of connection. You have to create that connection on even just your search pages, and your search experience to make that happen. What are some of the ways that people can do that well? Like if you had to choose one thing, like I would choose this to like up my user experience in my search, in the way that search is being managed. What's one tactic?
I mean, one tactic that we use for us is keywords, and just making sure that the way people are searching for things in your specific area is accurate.
Sure.
Because we come from the north, how we verbalize things is very different than how people in the south would verbalize things. And obviously with our clients being all over the US, that leads to differentiations in keywords. And so at Virtual Vision, we've really been diving into the content and the keywords on page, which is, we help our clients do that, so that we're making sure that what the people in their area are reading is accurate to where they live.
Sure. How do you actually do that? Like, what does that mean to find, like, so we can joke a little bit because we've been hanging out with some of like the other exhibitors that we see here. And last night, someone made a comment. They're from Canada. So if we have any Canadian listeners, you'll know what I'm going to say, but they said a word and we were both like, I don't know what that is. They were talking about like a change in weather trend, like getting warmer, like a weird shift. And they called it a
Chinook. Yep.
Like no one in Wisconsin's going to search that word.
Never.
But if you're doing like keyword related to weather in Canada, you'd
apparently use that.
Probably would need to know that. So what does that like physically look like? How do you find out what people are saying? Like we're from Wisconsin. If we're servicing a customer that's in the Carolinas, how do we know?
Yeah. So our team has come up with an amazing process for this. I don't have to tell you that, but for everyone else, the process, I mean, it took a lot, but the team has come up with, we use a tool that we actually do searches from those areas, and look for the service types in those areas and see what the search volume is by how people search. And then really making sure that we're using the highest search volume keywords, to put on the site, etc. So it is, I mean, it's a little bit of an extensive process per site, but it allows for that more personable touch that everyone is looking for, and especially with Google now with all the core updates. So,
core updates. Right. I know that that's a really big piece of like what's happening in Google and the ways that then we have to approach the market with that. But I also know that that's a really challenging thing when it comes to when Google makes a change, like it takes time to make that adjustment. So maybe that's a much bigger conversation. We could probably have like our own episode about more updates and get some like,
have my counterpart in design who would have an awesome insight into that. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk a little bit about like the trends in Google specifically. So, especially within the restoration industry, can you speak to a little bit like how people go about presenting their business and getting leads from social media, or not social media, I'm sorry, search engine? Like what's the best way to do that?
You mean like looking at ads versus organic?
Sure.
Or all of the above?
All of the above. Like,
Okay.
is there a trend in organic? Is there a trend in paid marketing? And for our listeners who aren't familiar, we've talked a little bit about it in previous episodes, but organic would be like the not paid aspects of search. So the ways that my keywords are showing up, the ways that users are naturally searching, I'm not paying for them to find me in that capacity. Still a strategy behind it, very much so. But then obviously then there's paid marketing. So we talk about paid ads, we talk about pay per lead, things like that. What does that, like, what's the trend happening in that arena?
That is shifting drastically.
Okay. What did it used to be and what is it moving to?
So it used to be Google AdWords side of things was pay per click. So you're paying for someone to click on your ad. What they do once they click on that ad is up to them, but you pay for that click.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Okay.
It is undisputable clicks. However, in that land, because we still see value in that, you have a lot more control over the keywords that you're presenting your company as, the service types that you're presenting your company as. And that's where you can really dive into, you actually get verbiage that you can use in that world. Whereas what we're kind of shifting into, also, we still keep that, but shifting into, we're playing with pay per lead. So now you're getting, they still are clicking on an ad, but if they call you or they can message you, if they do that and it isn't a qualified lead according to what we're representing on your profile, then we have the ability to dispute that lead on your behalf and be able to get you your money back. So that's where the kind of the game has changed, with the ability to be able to get refunded for those not qualified leads. Because many times, we all know there's tire kickers out there that are trying to get, as our owner likes to use, the mold on the shower curtain scenario, where it's like, well, that doesn't require a mold company. That just requires you going to Home Depot and buying a new shower curtain.
Right.
We would be able to dispute that lead on your behalf, because we do manage it for you, so you don't have to do any work with inside of it. But it is really shifted to that because people don't want to pay for clicks anymore. They want to pay for a qualified lead, which understandable. But we, as again, our owner would say, we like to put all of the eggs in the basket. So there is extreme value in having those AdWords ads still running, because again, you can really target keywords and really be able to dive more into that on that side of things, while simultaneously still running the pay per lead side of things as well. So it's really just figuring out how best to, and that's a process of figuring out how best to use a client's budget in figuring out, okay, where should we put the most money? And that's obviously a conversation that we consistently have. So,
well, and it's really like the concept of marketing. I think a lot of people, or it seems, and you can, I mean, you would know this best because you're really the one that like has those conversations with our customers day in and day out. But you can't just like say, I'm going to use this one marketing strategy and assume that that's going to be the thing that's like the game changer or the growth for your business. What you need to do is cast a wide net. There are going to be some areas that net is going to touch that, like, is it going to be your biggest source? Well, no, absolutely not. However, if you are casting that wide net, it allows you to really optimize your strategy in so many different areas and catch the people who are the, like, maybe they're searching in a different way, or we don't want to rule something out and miss the fact that your target market could still be in that area. And really optimizing that capacity.
But not just target market, it's also when you have multiple different ad revenues going at the same time, you have the ability to be able to move things around competition. Because
that's a good point.
We all know at the beginning of the month, people's budgets are full. They can actually put everything in. However, towards the end of that month, competition can be lower. And so we're able to move money around to really be able to optimize and take advantage of competition dropping.
Sure.
And then obviously times change, where storm season is now in action for this Tornado Alley area. And so we see a lot more competition pops up during this time of the year, because they're like, yes, it's obviously going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it can also drop because so many leads organically, as you mentioned, whether that's through your Google business profile or through your website or just a search online, are coming through that you don't have to pay for ads at that point in time. So that's where that back and forth really come in advantage of being able to have that constant communication and figuring out where best to play, because it's constantly changing.
It's really like a constant re-strategizing to like, what is the best fit for this moment?
And we're always changing. We had a conversation this morning as a marketing team of, okay, storms are at play in a good portion of the US. What does that look like? What do we need to put in action? What do we need to have running? What do we not want running right now?
Right.
And figuring out how best to cater to our clients so that it doesn't come down to, oh my goodness, we just got hit with a storm, we need this now.
Right.
And we're being more proactive, because that's internally, that's our goal, is to always be more proactive, less reactive.
Yeah.
So,
well, and especially in this industry, you have to be proactive in having things in place, because you have no idea when a disaster is going to strike.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, super good insight to all of those pieces. And I know that, again, moving target, there's so much more complexity to this that like we could spend hours diving into, I have no doubt. But we'll keep it short today. But I want to ask you a question that I ask everyone that comes onto my podcast. But I want to know, like, for someone who's just jumping into this industry, let's say like a brand new industry professional, maybe they're just opening a restoration company, and they come to you and ask what your advice is about marketing. How do you succeed in marketing in this industry? What would you tell them?
Well, our goal is to always make sure a client has the best foot forward. Okay. So a great place to start is with the free tools. So a Google business profile, which is anytime you search on Google Maps, if you see something pop up, that is a Google business profile. Having those, making sure that you are on there, first off, making sure your information is correct. And then working on getting reviews and good ratings for your company. That ranks you in all different ways, because that Google business profile plays into the pay-per-lead ads. And so just working on simple things like that you can really start pushing, so that when it is time you are ready to jump in to ads, whether that's internally managing those or working with a marketing company, you have that really good foot forward to start. Because otherwise you're starting and then it just takes a lot longer to rank. So I always suggest start there, work on getting your brand known in such a simple way as creating that simple profile. And that's, again, a free tool that's not charged in any way, shape, or form from Google. And that's a great place to start.
The last thing that I just want to hear you touch on, I know that in the last week we had a customer who had a pretty amazing job come in through their digital marketing. And I want you to share that, but I think it's important to note in that, like, this customer has been like long-term. This is a long-term strategy. And I think the question I was actually going to ask you was like, is there one story that sticks out? So maybe that's not even it, that like really shows the power that like marketing can have when you are patient with it. So whether it's that one that you know what I'm referring to, or a different, like, do you have an example of what that actually can look like?
Well, with that company, they've been with us for 5-6 years. And essentially we've grown with them. And that's one of the things we love to do. And as we've grown with them, obviously budgets increase, which is great, to be able to play in different ways, not play, but utilize that budget within different ways. It is playing. Yes. But it's utilizing that budget in different ways and really getting all those eggs in the basket. And in this case, it paid off. Ironically, it was an organic lead, and it's because of that online presence that we've really established through ads and through website updates, and really making sure that they're working on their reviews and their ratings, that led to, I mean, at this point, a $500,000 job, and that's not done.
That's so incredible.
It is an incredible lead that came through. They are pumped beyond belief, needless to say.
Sure.
But and what's really cool is that it wasn't organic. So ultimately it was free.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had a lot of work on the ground and in the online atmosphere to be able to get them to this point where they got such an organic lead. But ultimately, it's great to see those kind of opportunities for them come through, because when they win, we win.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to see for our clients too.
Okay, it does bring up the question that I'm sure at least one of our listeners thought when you said that, because it was a organic lead. Does that mean then that you should not be like, why then do the paid?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So like I said, this client has an exceptional budget. We love it. We've obviously worked up to the point that we are at now,
Yes.
budget wise.
You can succeed without like this
Yes.
massive budget.
Yes. His budget is just very nice, and that's great. But that we've grown with this company, and as they've grown, they've been able to designate more money towards it.
Yes.
So, there is definitely still value in being in ads, because Google looks at that and sees that you're doing all of these tools, and they like you more.
Yeah.
They want you to succeed more. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
It is a game. Google is an entity that we have to play with and figure out how best to succeed with. And that is constantly changing, as you mentioned before. And so we've had great ad things come in as well. And this one just happened to be organic. So it really depends on the scenario that you're in, and you just kind of got to keep rolling, and that's an awesome win.
Yeah.
And then there'll be times where it's an ad one that wins. So it's just, again, it's all the eggs in the basket, helps you function better. Google looks at you more kindly.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing today.
Absolutely.
I know, I've got a little screen pop up here. My screen probably telling me that it's like time for us to
sign off.
come up to our booth. But thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
And again, for our listeners, like, do Kim and I work together? Yes. But what she's speaking to is what you hear and we read. Like, this isn't just from what we do day in and day out. It's from keeping up with the trends and watching the research and seeing what's coming out. And so I thought today would be a really good opportunity to share with that. So thank you for joining.
No problem.
Again, thanks for joining to our listeners. This is the Digital Dialogues podcast brought to you by Virtual Vision. I'm your host, Amanda, and I hope you'll join us again next time. See you later.